Dr. Alex Rivera's coffee had gone cold for the third time that morning when the proximity alarms started wailing throughout the Aurora dawn. He'd been elbow-deep in research data about crystalline organisms when the ship's AI, Darwin, interrupted with his characteristic blend of efficiency and mild condescension. "Dr. Rivera, your expertise is required in the shuttle bay. We have what appears to be a biological emergency aboard a derelict escape pod. Also, your coffee has achieved the ambient temperature of deep space. Perhaps consider switching to tea." Alex grabbed his medical kit and sprinted through the corridors, nearly colliding with Chief Engineer Maria Santos, who was cursing in 3 languages at a malfunctioning gravity stabilizer. "What's the situation?" he called out as he passed. "Unknown vessel, life signs barely registering," she shouted back. "Captain wants you to assess whether whatever's inside is dead, dying, or just really good at playing possum." The shuttle bay buzzed with controlled chaos as crew members secured the damaged pod. Its hull bore scorch marks and impact craters that spoke of a desperate flight through hostile space. Captain Elena Vasquez stood beside the airlock, her expression grim as she studied the readings on her handheld scanner. "Alex, thank God," she said as he approached. "We've got one life form inside, but the biosignatures are unlike anything in our databases. Could be a new species, could be someone we know who's been through hell. Either way, they need medical attention fast." The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure, revealing the pod's cramped interior. Alex's breath caught as he saw the figure curled in the pilot's seat, definitely humanoid, but with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, translucent in places like living pearl. Her breathing was shallow, labored, and she appeared unconscious. "Luminari," whispered Dar. Sarah Winters, the chief medical officer, who had arrived just behind Alex. "But that's impossible. They've been extinct for decades." Alex carefully extracted the alien woman from the pod, noting her surprisingly light weight and the way her skin felt cool to the touch despite the shimmer of bioluminescence beneath the surface. She was young, perhaps equivalent to a human in her early 20s, with elongated limbs and features that held an otherworldly beauty even in her current distressed state. "Let's get her to the med bay," he said, lifting her gently. "We can figure out the politics later." As they rushed through the corridors, Alex noticed the alien's bioluminescence flickering weakly, like a dying firefly. Her lips moved soundlessly, and he caught fragments of words in a language that sounded like music played on crystal chimes. The medbay welcomed them with its sterile efficiency, but as Alex placed the alien on the diagnostic table, he realized their standard equipment might not be adequate for her unique physiology. Her body temperature was several degrees below human normal, yet she didn't seem to be hypothermic, rather, she appeared to be absorbing heat from her surroundings. "Darwin, run a complete physiological analysis," Alex ordered as he began connecting monitoring devices. "And see if you can translate whatever she's been saying. Preliminary analysis suggests a silicon-carbon hybrid biology with remarkable regenerative capabilities," Darwin replied. "However, the linguistic patterns are proving challenging. The closest match is an ancient Luminari dialect, but my records indicate the language died out with the species' extinction." Dr. Winters frowned as she reviewed the readouts. "Her metabolism is fascinating but concerning. She's essentially a living solar collector, designed to absorb and process various forms of energy. But she's severely depleted, probably hasn't had access to proper energy sources in weeks." Alex adjusted the medbay's environmental controls, raising the ambient temperature several degrees. Almost immediately, the alien's bioluminescence grew slightly brighter, and her breathing became less labored. "She's responding to the heat," he observed. "Darwin, can you increase the infrared output in here without affecting the medical equipment?" "Certainly, though I should warn you that prolonged exposure to elevated temperatures may cause discomfort for human personnel. Perhaps Dr. Rivera would prefer to conduct his observations from the adjacent room?" "I'm fine," Alex said quickly, settling into a chair beside the diagnostic table. Something about the alien's vulnerability stirred protective instincts he hadn't known he possessed. "I'll monitor her personally." "Dar." Winters gave him a searching look. Alex, I understand the scientific fascination, but remember the protocols regarding unknown species. We don't know if she's dangerous, or if whatever she's fleeing might come looking for her. Look at her, Alex replied softly. She's barely clinging to life. Whatever danger she might pose is far outweighed by the danger she's currently in. As if responding to his voice, the alien stirred slightly. Her bioluminescence pulsed in what might have been a pattern, and her lips moved again. This time, Darwin caught enough syllables to attempt a partial translation. She appears to be saying something about shadow hunters and the burning of home trees, the AI reported. The context suggests trauma-related memories or possibly prophetic visions. Luminari culture was reportedly rich in mythopoetic traditions. Alex reached out instinctively, then stopped himself just short of touching her hand. Even unconscious, she seemed to be in pain, her features drawn with some inner anguish that went beyond physical injury. Dr. Rivera, Dr. Winters said gently, I'm assigning you as her primary care physician, but I want hourly reports on her condition. And if she shows any signs of consciousness, call me immediately. We're in uncharted territory here. After Dr. Winters left, Alex found himself alone with the mysterious alien. The medbay's enhanced heating made the air feel thick and drowsy, but he remained alert, watching for any change in her condition. Her bioluminescence had settled into a steady, gentle glow that was oddly hypnotic. What happened to you? He murmured, finally allowing himself to brush a strand of her silver-white hair away from her face. Her skin was warming under the infrared lamps, taking on a more vibrant luminosity that revealed intricate patterns beneath the surface, like constellations mapped on living starlight. Hours passed as Alex maintained his vigil, adjusting treatments and documenting her unique physiological responses. The alien's condition gradually stabilized, but she remained unconscious, lost in whatever dreams or memories haunted her sleep. Outside the medbay's viewports, the stars wheeled slowly past as the Aurora Dawn continued its survey mission, carrying its unexpected passenger toward an uncertain future. But in the warm, quiet sanctuary of the medical bay, Alex felt a profound sense of purpose settling over him. Whatever this alien woman had endured, whatever had driven her to flee across the void in a damaged escape pod, she was safe now. And somehow, ensuring her continued safety had become the most important mission of his career. 3 days had passed since Kira, Alex had taken to calling her that after Darwin's translation attempts revealed fragments of what seemed to be her name, first arrived aboard the Aurora Dawn. Her condition had stabilized remarkably, her bioluminescence now a steady, warm glow that had transformed the clinical medbay into something resembling an underwater grotto lit by friendly spirits. Alex was reviewing her latest metabolic readings when Captain Vasquez's voice crackled through the comm system with the kind of tension that made everyone on the ship pause whatever they were doing. All senior staff to the bridge. Priority 1. We have a situation. Alex glanced at Kira, who appeared to be sleeping peacefully, her breathing deep and regular. He'd been spending increasingly long hours in the medbay, telling himself it was purely professional concern, though Dr. Winters had started giving him pointed looks about proper work-life balance. The bridge hummed with anxious energy as the senior staff assembled. On the main view screen, a massive Korath Empire battlecruiser dominated the starfield like a mechanical predator, all angular armor plating and weapon arrays that could reduce the Aurora Dawn to cosmic dust without breaking a sweat. They're demanding we surrender what they call a stolen genetic asset, Captain Vasquez explained, her jaw tight with frustration. Apparently, our guest is more valuable than we realized. Commander Torres, the ship's tactical officer, shook his head grimly. The Korath don't make polite requests. If they're out here demanding her surrender, it means they're willing to start a shooting war to get her back. But the Luminari are extinct, Dr. Winters protested. Everyone knows the Korath wiped them out decades ago during the Third Expansion War. Apparently not everyone, Alex said quietly, pieces of a horrifying puzzle clicking together in his mind. What if she's not just a survivor? What if she's something more valuable than that? Darwin's synthesized voice filled the bridge with characteristic understatement, based on my analysis of the passenger's unique genetic markers, I believe she may be what xenobiologists term a living archive, an individual bred to carry the complete genetic and cultural memory of her species. The Koroth would indeed find such a specimen useful. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Alex felt his stomach clench as he imagined what the Koroth would do to extract that information from Kira's living cells. "Sir," came the voice of Lieutenant Park from the communications station, "the Koroth commander is demanding immediate compliance. They're charging weapons." Captain Vasquez closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with the weary resolve of someone facing an impossible choice. How long until they're in firing range? 18 minutes at current approach vector. Alex was already moving toward the door. "I need to check on Kira. If she's conscious, she deserves to know what's happening." "Alex, wait," Dr. Winters started, but he was already gone, his mind racing with possibilities and half-formed plans that all seemed to end with Kira in Koroth hands. The medbay felt like a sanctuary compared to the tension on the bridge. Kira lay motionless on the diagnostic table, her bioluminescence dimmed to a soft pulse that matched her slow breathing. But as Alex approached, her eyes opened, large, violet-hued orbs that held depths of intelligence and sadness. "You are troubled," she said in carefully pronounced standard, her voice carrying the musical quality of her native language. "The ship, it feels afraid." Alex stared at her in shock. "You're awake. And you're speaking standard. How long have you been listening? Learning?" She struggled to sit up, and Alex instinctively moved to help her, his hands steadying her shoulders. Her skin was warm now, warmer than human normal, and she seemed to draw comfort from the contact. "Your language is structured differently than mine. But pain and kindness sound the same in any tongue." "Kira," Alex said gently, using the name he'd assigned her. Her eyes widened slightly at the sound. "There are ships coming. Bad people who want to hurt you. Do you understand?" Her bioluminescence flickered erratically, and for a moment the temperature in the medbay seemed to spike. "The shadow hunters," she whispered. "They found me. I hoped. I thought perhaps the void would hide my light." The ship suddenly lurched, and the lights flickered ominously. Alex's comm unit crackled to life. "All hands, prepare for emergency power conservation. Engine maintenance has caused a temporary reactor fluctuation." Within moments, the medbay's heating systems went offline, and Alex watched in horror as Kira's bioluminescence began to fade rapidly. Her body temperature started dropping toward dangerous levels, and her breathing became shallow and labored. "Darwin, emergency heating in Medbay 3. Alex shouted, but the AI's response was sluggish due to the power restrictions. Kira's hand found his, her fingers cold but still glowing faintly. It's all right," she managed through chattering teeth. "I have survived worse cold than this." But Alex could see her vital signs plummeting on the monitors. Without the environmental heat she needed, her unique metabolism was shutting down. In desperation, he grabbed every thermal blanket he could find and climbed onto the narrow medical bed beside her, pulling the covers over both of them and wrapping his arms around her trembling form. "What are you doing?" she asked, though she didn't pull away. "Sharing body heat," Alex replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Basic survival technique. Your people absorb thermal energy, right? So let's give you some to absorb." For a moment, they lay there in the darkened medbay, two beings from different worlds pressed together in the most intimate of survival embraces. Alex could feel Kira's body gradually warming, her bioluminescence slowly brightening until it cast a gentle glow through the thermal blankets. "You are warm," she said softly, her voice carrying wonder. "Not just your body. Your essence. It feels like safety." Alex felt something shift in his chest, a connection forming that had nothing to do with medical protocols or scientific curiosity. "You can sense that?" "My people read warmth patterns," she explained, her breathing steadying as the thermal transfer continued. Fear is cold and sharp. Anger burns but gives no comfort. But you. She turned slightly in his arms, her violet eyes meeting his in the dim glow of her bioluminescence. You are like sunrise after the longest night. The moment was interrupted by the medbay door sliding open with a soft hiss. Dar. Winters stood silhouetted in the doorway, her expression cycling through surprise, concern, and professional disapproval in rapid succession. Dr. Rivera, she said carefully, I understand the circumstances are unusual, but this is highly irregular. Alex started to move away, but Kira's hand tightened on his arm. Please, she whispered. Don't let them take me back to the cold. Looking into her eyes, Alex made a decision that would change everything. Dr. Winters, I'm documenting this as a necessary medical intervention to prevent hypothermic shock in a patient with unique thermal requirements. Dr. Winters stared at them for a long moment, then sighed. I'll be filing a report with Captain Vasquez. But for now. She paused, her expression softening slightly. For now, continue the treatment. We'll sort out the protocols later. As the door closed behind her, Kira whispered, Thank you. For the warmth. For the kindness. For seeing me as more than just a specimen to be studied or a weapon to be used. Alex pulled the thermal blankets more securely around them both, acutely aware that their peaceful moment was temporary. Outside, Korath warships waited with weapons charged, ready to tear apart anyone who stood between them and their prize. But here, in the warm sanctuary of the medbay, he held a living piece of galactic history in his arms and knew he would do whatever it took to keep her safe. The emergency briefing convened in Conference Room Alpha with the kind of grim efficiency reserved for situations where everyone might be dead within the hour. Alex sat beside Captain Vasquez, acutely aware of Kira's absence from the discussion that would determine her fate. She'd insisted on remaining in the medbay, claiming that her presence would only complicate negotiations, though Alex suspected she was trying to protect the crew from having to make an impossible choice. The Korath have given us exactly 37 minutes to surrender the Luminari, Captain Vasquez announced without preamble. Their commander, Warlord Thex, has made it clear that refusal means the complete destruction of this vessel and everyone aboard. Commander Torres pulled up tactical displays that painted their situation in stark, hopeless colors. 3 Korath dreadnoughts, each one carrying enough firepower to level a small moon. Even if we had a full battle group, we'd be outgunned 20-1. What about diplomatic solutions? Asked Dr. Winters, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. The Korath don't negotiate, replied Ambassador Chen, the ship's diplomatic liaison. Especially not over what they consider stolen property. To them, any surviving Luminari belongs in their biological research facilities. Alex felt sick as the full horror of the situation crystallized. You mean their torture chambers? They want to vivisect her, extract every memory, every piece of genetic information her people trusted her to carry. The ethical implications are clear, Dr. Winters agreed. But we also have a responsibility to the 347 other souls aboard this ship. Darwin's voice filled the tense silence with characteristic precision. Based on historical analysis of Korath military doctrine, the probability of crew survival following surrender is approximately 12%. They typically eliminate witnesses to maintain operational security. The conference room fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't just choosing between Kira's life and the crew's safety, the Korath intended to kill them all regardless. Sir, Lieutenant Park's voice crackled through the comm system, the passenger is requesting permission to speak with you. She says it's urgent. Captain Vasquez exchanged glances with Alex. Patch her through. Kira's voice filled the room, somehow managing to sound both fragile and resolute. Captain Vasquez, I have listened to your discussions through the ship's communication system. I cannot allow innocent people to die for my sake. I will surrender myself if you guarantee safe passage for your crew. Kira, no. Alex stood so quickly his chair toppled backward. You heard Darwin's analysis. They'll kill us anyway. Perhaps, came her reply. But perhaps not. Hope is a luxury I cannot afford, but it is one I can give to others. Alex was already moving toward the door when Captain Vasquez caught his arm. Where are you going? To stop her from making a mistake that gets everyone killed, Alex replied, pulling free. There has to be another option. He found Kira in the medbay, standing before the main viewport and gazing out at the approaching Korath fleet. Her bioluminescence had taken on a steady, almost hypnotic pulse that seemed to match some internal rhythm of resignation and resolve. You cannot change my mind, she said without turning around. I have carried the memories of my people for 23 cycles. I know what duty means. And I know what hope means, Alex replied, moving to stand beside her. What if there was a third option? Something that doesn't involve you sacrificing yourself or all of us dying. She turned to face him, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the viewport. What are you thinking? The experimental quantum drive, Alex said, his mind racing through possibilities. It's never been tested at full capacity, but theoretically it could jump us into uncharted space faster than the Korath could follow. Theoretically, Kira repeated. And if it fails? Then we're no worse off than we are now. But if it works? Alex took her hands in his, feeling the warm pulse of her bioluminescence against his palms. If it works, we buy time. Time to find you sanctuary, time to make contact with other survivors of your people, time to build something better than just running from the Korath for the rest of our lives. Before Kira could respond, the ship's lights flickered and died completely. Emergency power kicked in moments later, bathing everything in red shadows as Darwin's voice filled the medbay with uncharacteristic urgency. Hull breach in Engineering Section 7. Cascade failure in the primary power grid. All hands to emergency stations. The medbay plunged into chaos as backup systems struggled to maintain life support. In the darkness, Alex felt Kira's hand tighten on his as her bioluminescence flared brighter, casting dancing shadows on the walls. The quantum drive, she said suddenly. If the power grid has failed, how can you activate it? Manual activation from the engine room, Alex replied, already moving toward the emergency supply lockers. But someone needs to stay here and maintain the medical systems. If the life support fails completely. Go, Kira interrupted, her voice carrying quiet authority. I will manage here. Alex hesitated, torn between duty and desire. Kira, if this goes wrong. Then we face the darkness together, she said simply. But if it goes right, perhaps we see sunrise again. As Alex raced through the ship's darkened corridors toward engineering, he could hear the sounds of controlled panic echoing from every section. Crew members worked frantically to restore systems while the Korath fleet drew inexorably closer, their weapons charged and ready to reduce the Aurora Dawn to scattered atoms. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Santos was already working on the quantum drive's manual activation sequence, her hands flying over controls that sparked and smoked with each adjustment. Alex. Thank God. I need someone with steady hands to calibrate the dimensional resonance matrix while I handle the power coupling. They worked in desperate harmony, sweat dripping despite the cold air as life support struggled to maintain atmosphere. Outside, the Korath dreadnoughts continued their approach, their massive hulls blotting out sections of Starfield like mechanical eclipses. 30 seconds to activation, Santos called out. If this works, we're going to jump further into uncharted space than any human ship has ever gone. If it doesn't work. I know, Alex replied, his hands steady on the controls despite the terror coursing through his veins. Either way, we're making history. The quantum drive hummed to life with a sound like reality tearing at the seams. Through the ship's internal communications, Alex could hear reports from every section as systems came back online one by one. But it was Kira's voice that caught his attention, clear and strong despite the chaos around them. Alex, she said through the comm system, the medical bay is secure. Life support is stable. And her voice carried a note of wonder that made his heart race. The patients are all stable. I managed to keep the critical systems running. How? He asked, even as he continued working on the quantum drive calibration. Body heat, she replied with what might have been amusement. I discovered that my bioluminescence can power your medical equipment if I focus the energy properly. It is exhausting, but effective. The quantum drive reached full power with a sound like singing crystals. Through the viewports, Alex could see space beginning to bend and twist as the experimental engine prepared to tear a hole in reality itself. All hands, prepare for quantum jump, Captain Vasquez announced over the ship's communication system. This is going to be rough. As the Aurora Dawn leaped into the unknown, Alex thought about Kira in the med bay, using her own life force to keep others alive. In that moment, he realized that saving her had become more than just a medical obligation or even a moral imperative. Somewhere in the spaces between duty and desire, between fear and hope, he had fallen completely, irrevocably in love with an alien girl who carried the light of dead stars in her living cells. The universe twisted around them, reality became negotiable, and they flew together into the darkness between worlds, carrying with them the fragile possibility of a future where warmth could triumph over cold, where connection could bridge the void between species, and where love could be stronger than the vast, hostile emptiness of space. The Aurora Dawn drifted through uncharted space like a mechanical island in an ocean of stars, her quantum jump having carried them far beyond the reach of Korath sensors. 3 days had passed since their desperate escape, and the ship had settled into the quiet routine of repair and recovery that followed any brush with extinction. Alex sat in the medbay during the night shift, surrounded by the gentle hum of medical equipment and the soft glow of Kira's bioluminescence. She appeared to be sleeping peacefully for the first time since her arrival, her breathing deep and regular, her luminous patterns steady and calm. The crisis had passed, the immediate danger was gone, but Alex found himself reluctant to leave her side. He'd been updating her medical files when the weight of recent events finally caught up with him. The past week had transformed his understanding of medicine, diplomacy, and his own capacity for connection across species barriers. Watching Kira use her own life force to power medical equipment during the crisis had revealed depths of selflessness that humbled him. She'd risked her own recovery to keep other patients alive, asking for nothing in return except the chance to help. "You should sleep," came her voice, soft and musical in the quiet medbay. Alex looked up to find her eyes still closed, her bioluminescence unchanged, giving no indication she was conscious. "I thought you were asleep," he said, setting aside his data pad. "I was. But I can feel your worry. It tastes like copper and starlight." She opened her violet eyes, turning her head slightly to look at him. "You have been sitting there for 4 hours, watching me breathe and wondering if I will disappear like a dream." Alex felt heat rise in his cheeks. "It's not that unusual. Medical personnel often monitor critical patients." "I am no longer critical," Kira interrupted gently. "My people say that when someone watches over us while we sleep, it means they are afraid to let us go." "Are you afraid, Alex Rivera?" The question hung in the air between them, honest and direct in a way that cut through all his professional protocols and careful emotional barriers. Alex leaned back in his chair, studying her face in the gentle glow of her bioluminescence. "Yes," he admitted. "But not of what you might think. I'm afraid of going back to the way things were before. Before you arrived and turned everything I thought I knew about connection and purpose upside down." Kira shifted slightly on the medical bed, her luminous patterns brightening with what he'd learned to recognize as curiosity. "Tell me about before." "Before was predictable," Alex said, surprised by his own honesty. "I studied alien biology, cataloged interesting specimens, wrote research papers that maybe 12 people in the galaxy would read. I was good at my job, but I was just going through the motions. Then you crashed into our lives in a damaged escape pod, and suddenly everything mattered more. Because I am Luminari. Because I carry the memories of my people." "No," Alex said, meeting her gaze directly. "Because you're you. Because you chose to trust us when trust could have meant death. Because you used your own strength to save others when you barely had enough left to save yourself. Because when you look at me, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Kira was quiet for a long moment, her bioluminescence pulsing in complex patterns that seemed to reflect deep thought. My people have a word, she said finally. Vathis. It means, the warmth that calls to warmth. It is what we feel when we recognize someone who complements our essential nature. And do you feel that? With me? From the moment you pulled me from the escape pod and wrapped me in thermal blankets, she replied. But I thought perhaps it was gratitude, or desperation, or the disorientation of being the last of my kind. And now? Kira sat up slowly, her movements fluid and graceful despite her recent ordeal. Now I think perhaps the universe has a sense of humor. It scattered my people across the void, hunted us to the edge of extinction, but it also guided me to a ship where a human doctor would risk his career to keep me warm. Alex felt his heart racing as she moved closer to the edge of the medical bed. Kira, there's something I need to tell you. Captain Vasquez has been in contact with Sanctuary Station. They're offering you full political asylum, citizenship if you want it. You'd be safe there, protected. And you? She asked. Would you be there as well? The question he'd been avoiding suddenly demanded an answer. Alex had spent 3 sleepless nights considering his options, weighing duty against desire, logic against the growing certainty that his future lay with this extraordinary woman from the stars. I've requested a transfer to Sanctuary Station's Xenobiology department, he said quietly. If you'll have me. If you want someone around who understands your unique medical needs and doesn't mind sharing body heat during power outages. Kira's laugh was like music played on crystal chimes, her bioluminescence flaring bright with what he now recognized as joy. You would leave your ship, your life, to follow an alien refugee to an unknown station at the edge of civilized space. I would follow you anywhere, Alex replied, the words carrying more truth than he'd ever spoken. You're not just a refugee, Kira. You're the keeper of an entire civilization's memories, the bridge between what was lost and what might still be saved. But more than that, you're the person who makes me want to be better than I was. Without warning, Kira reached out and took his hands in hers, her skin warm and alive with gentle light. You're warm, she whispered, the same phrase she'd spoken during their desperate embrace in the darkness. But now it carried deeper meaning, recognition, acceptance, and the promise of a shared future among the stars. Not just physically warm, she continued, her bioluminescence pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. Your essence, your spirit. In all the genetic memories I carry, all the stories of my people's encounters with other species, I have never felt anything like the safety you represent. Alex brought her hands to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her luminous knuckles. Then we'll build something new together. Your people's memories, my medical knowledge, and whatever possibilities we can create at Sanctuary Station. The last luminary and a human doctor, Kira mused, her eyes sparkling with bioluminescent tears. My ancestors would have called it impossible. But then, they never imagined someone would risk everything to share their warmth with a stranger in the darkness. Through the medbay's viewport, the stars wheeled slowly past, no longer distant points of light but destinations waiting to be explored. The Aurora Dawn carried them toward Sanctuary Station and a future neither of them could have imagined a week ago, when a damaged escape pod had brought them together across the vast loneliness of space. Darwin, Alex called out to the ship's AI, what's our estimated arrival time at Sanctuary Station? 47 hours, 32 minutes, Dr. Rivera, came the synthesized reply. Also, I should mention that the station's Xenobiology department has already approved your transfer request. It seems they're quite eager to have someone with your unique experience in luminary physiology. Kira laughed, the sound like silver bells in cosmic wind. Unique experience indeed. How many medical texts describe the proper protocol for sharing body heat with a bioluminescent patient? I'll write the first one, Alex replied, pulling her closer until she was sitting on the edge of the medical bed, her forehead resting against his. Chapter 1, sometimes the best medicine is just being willing to get warm together. Her bioluminescence flared brighter as she leaned into him, and Alex realized that this was what home felt like, not a place, but a person who made the vast universe feel intimate and welcoming. They sat together in the quiet med bay as the ship carried them toward their new life, two beings from different worlds who had found in each other the warmth that calls to warmth across the darkness between stars. "Thank you," Kira whispered against his shoulder. "For seeing me not as a specimen or a refugee or a living archive, but simply as someone worth saving." "Thank you," Alex replied, "for showing me that the best discoveries aren't made in laboratories or research stations. They're made in moments like this, when two souls recognize each other across impossible distances and decide to build something beautiful together." Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, witnesses to a love story that would bridge species and create new possibilities for connection in a universe that had seemed too vast and cold for such miracles. But in the warm sanctuary of the medbay, miracles felt not only possible but inevitable, as natural as the gentle glow of bioluminescence and as enduring as the promise whispered between heartbeats, "You're warm."